Think crochet cardigans are complicated? Think again. Hey guys, I'm T, maker of 600 plus patterns and tutorials. Welcome to the channel. In today's tutorial, we're keeping it simple but stylish. You'll be learning how to crochet an easy cropped button cardigan that's perfect for beginners. With ribbed edges, a comfy modern fit, and straightforward construction, this project is just as fun to make as it is to wear. If you're new here, welcome. I share modern crochet patterns and tutorials every Wednesday and Sunday, so tell a friend, tap the bell, and subscribe so you never miss an upload. And if you enjoy the video, give it a thumbs up, or 2 thumbs out if you don't. Either way, it helps keep these tutorials free. So without further ado, let's get started on this easy, beginner-friendly cardigan. Any category 4 yarn will work. I used a total of 320 grams of yarn. That's 720 yards if you're stateside, along with a 5mm hook. Pattern link below. Use code TCDDIY for a discount on orders over $9.99. Stay to the end for this week's giveaway. We're using 4 stitches for this cute cardigan. They're on screen now. Pause to check them out. This tutorial is made for a size small. You can adjust it for your size, and we explain how to in the video. So without further ado, here's how to make your own beginner-friendly cardigan. Getting this effortlessly cool cardigan started, we're all setting the vibe with our front panel's underarm. We're all going to grab our category 4 yarn and make a slip knot. Then we're all going to grab our 5mm hook. We're all going to start with a chain from 1 inch underneath our underarm that drops down to our waist. Remember, we are going to have a bottom band though, so make sure you leave enough space for that. I wanted mine to be cropped, so I'm going to start by making a chain of 23. That's just about 5.5 inches or 14 centimeters. But if you wanted yours to be full length, that's totally doable too. Make your chain the length that you'd like for yours to be, because all the instructions are going to be the same. Our chain is completed. Now we're all going to do our first row. Block off that last chain and do a chain 4. Now that chain 4 is our turning chain that doesn't actually count as a stitch. Now we're going to treble crochet all the way down. So how we do a treble is we're going to yarn over twice. We're going to insert our hook into that 5th chain from our hook, or the chain that we blocked off. We're going to insert. I am working in the back bumps, but it is not necessary. I just like the finish. Once we have these 4 loops on our hook, we're going to yarn over and pull through 2 until we have 1 loop left on our hook. So yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, and pull through 2. That is our first treble crochet. Let's do the next 2. So yarn over twice. Into that next chain, we're all going to insert, pull through, and again yarn over, pull through 2, pull through 2, pull through 2. Then treble your way down, leaving that last chain. Just a few minutes went by. We're nearly done with the first row. Now we should all have 1 chain left. Into that last chain, we're all going to increase. Now this increase is just 2 trebles into that last chain. So yarn over twice, into that last chain with our first treble. So pull through, yarn over, and pull through 2 until we have 1 loop left on our hook. Then 1 more treble into that same last chain, so that we end up with 1 more stitch than chains that we made. Row 1's done. Now let's get started on our row 2. Now the turning chain for our trebles are going to be a chain 4, and that chain 4, unless stated otherwise, isn't going to count as a stitch, so we're going to flip our work. Now we're going to start this row off with an increase, the same increase that we just closed our row 1 with. So yarn over twice. Into that first stitch with 1 treble crochet, same first stitch with a second. Then for the rest of this row, 1 treble crochet into every stitch. Now I'm actually used to doing treble crochets because we use them pretty much every time we do our cable work, and we've done a lot of cable work, but trebles do take practice. Snags, completely normal. You want to stay patient and you'll master it in no time, and once when you do, you will breeze through any pattern that has trebles since it works up super duper fast, just like this one. We just completed our first 2 rows. For the underarm part, it's just going to be a repeat of these 2 previous rows. Now just to make sure that we all have it down and we are all doing good, we're going to chain 4, which is our turning chain, flip our work, treble crochet all the way down, leaving that last stitch so we can increase together again. We made our way up with our row 3. We left that last stitch, so now we can increase together. Same as the last one, we're going to treble crochet into that last, and add a second treble crochet into that same last stitch. Again, every increased row gives us 1 more stitch than our previous row. Since our row 3 is completed, our row 4 is going to be the same as our row 2, so we're going to chain 4, flip our work, start with an increase, then treble into the rest of our stitches. We're going to work these 2 rows until the fabric hits from mid-underarm to the front, like where your bra strap would live. Make sure you end on an odd number row so your shoulder transition stays nice and neat. Now this is one of my panels already completed since we are making a cardigan, therefore giving us 2 panels to make. Now right after my first 3 rows, I'm actually complete with my underarm portion. This width is just about 2 inches or 5 centimeters, and don't mind the paint, we were just painting the room. And the increase height that I have is just about 6.5 inches or 16 centimeters. Then what we're going to do is make a chain that's in multiples of 4 that can reach the top of our shoulder. Some things that we want to make sure that we keep track of is make sure that we're keeping the tail end still at about 1 inch underneath our underarm, because we don't want this tail end to become too high, giving us an uncomfortable sleeve so it's a little bit too tight, or too low, which will give us a bigger armhole, therefore a bigger sleeve, which is cute but not quite what we want for this pattern. Now since I already measured mine out, I need roughly 5.5 inches or 14 centimeters, so from where I'm at, I'm going to start by making a chain 24. Chain completed. Now we're going to do our shoulder. So we're going to block off that last chain and chain 4. This is basically going to be done exactly the same way that we worked our first row. So we have our turning chain. We're going to insert into that 5th chain from our hook or into that chain that we blocked off with our first treble crochet. Treble crochets are done per usual, so make your way down with 1 treble into every chain, then also 1 treble into every stitch, then I'll meet you back at the end of the row. First shoulder row, checked. Now we're going to do more shoulder rows, but that's going to be super simple. That is just normal treble crochet rows with absolutely no increases, no decreases, till the shoulder lands at the edge of our neck. Wrap up right after an even number row, then next we're going to work on our charming little neckline. Shoulders, done. I now have a total of 8 rows. This width is just about 5 inches or 13 centimeters. Now we're going to shift our focus from our shoulders to the start of the silhouette, which is that really soft neck scoop. But a pro tip right before that, the back panel's underarm and the width of the back panel is going to be done exactly like this. So take note of this so we can blaze through the back panel when we get there in just a few. Now let's start the neckline. Place the shoulder at the top of our shoulder, then pop your stitch marker into any stitch where you'd like the fun little curve for the neckline to begin. I'd like for mine to be a little bit lower. Mine measures at mid-bust, so into the 29th stitch from the top. That's about 7 inches or 18 centimeters. The next row is trebles all the way up till we reach our stitch marker. Get that done, then we'll pick up to do our decreases. We are so close to being done with one of our front panels. We've made our way up until we reached our stitch marker. Now to get a nice scoop, our following row is going to start with a decrease. So we're going to chain 4 and flip. Now to do our decrease of 2 trebles, what we're going to do is still yarn over twice. We're going to insert our hook into that first stitch, pull through, next stitch, pull through. We should have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 loops on our hook. From here, we're still going to yarn over and pull through 2 until we have 1 loop left on our hook. So yarn over, pull through the first 2 loops, yarn over, pull through the next 2, yarn over, pull through the next 2, and yarn over, pull through 2. And that is our decrease. Finish up the row with 1 treble crochet into the rest of our stitches, and for this row, we should have 1 less stitch than our previous row. Our second neckline row is done. Keep working those 2 rows till the neckline reaches center chest. And after these 2 rows, I'm actually all done. But just to make sure that we all have it down, I'm going to do the following 2 rows with you, and then we'll move on. So for those of you that need to do a few more rows, chain 4 and work up with trebles. Then we'll decrease once more. Trebles are great for cardigans because they build up fast and give that airy, drapey feel without weighing things down. This cardigan is no exception. It's comfy and cute enough to wear with jeans or a skirt or wear over your PJs around the house. No judgment. Our third neckline row, all done. Now we're just going to do the decrease together. So chain 4 and flip. And once more for our decrease, yarn over twice. Into that first stitch, pull through, next stitch, pull through. Then, just like our normal trebles, we're going to yarn over and pull through 2 until we have 1 loop left on our hook. If it gets caught, that's totally normal, just like how mine did, and you are done. Now, I just needed those 2 neckline rows, so I'm going to take away these 2 rows, do a little snippy snip, then I'll meet you back to do the back panel. Now I know I just said that we're going to work on our back panel, which we are, but once we have one of our front panels completed, we do want to make sure that we're making a second one that is exactly the same. Now just to let y'all know, I have a total of 10 rows now for one of my front panels. Now my total width is 6 inches or 16 centimeters. Now we're going to get started on the back. Alright, so remember how a couple clips ago I said remember how to do the underarm and the shoulder? That's basically going to be done now. So to get started on the back panel's underarm, we're going to make the same chain that we made for the front panel's underarm, and we're going to do the same exact amount of rows as our front panel's underarm, increases included. Once we have that, make a chain for the same amount of chains that we made that led up to our shoulders for the back panel, then just do our treble crochet row all the way down and across until our back can reach across to where our other bra strap would lay, ending on an even number, then we'll work straight into the underarm. Now quick mention, the front panels might overlap once when the back panel is wide enough, but that's just comfy coverage for the girls, you know what I mean? But when we have that, which I have a total of 16 rows, and that's just about 10.5 inches or 27 centimeters, we're going to go in with our underarm, so place your stitch marker into the same amount of chains that we made that led up to our shoulder. I made a chain of 24, so on this side, starting from the top, I'm going to insert my stitch marker into the 24th stitch. Then, since we're along the bottom, chain 4, treble all the way up, leaving 2 stitches right before our stitch marker. Treble down, leaving 2 stitches. Now we're going to decrease. So yarn over twice, second to last, pull through, last, pull through to get a total of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 loops on our hook. Just like how we did the front panel, yarn over and pull through 2 till we all have 1 loop left on our hook. Now the next row is going to start with a decrease 2, so chain 4 and flip. Decreasing once more, yarn over twice into that next stitch, pull through, next stitch, pull through, yarn over, pull through 2 until we all have 1 loop left, and treble all the way down. Then we're just going to repeat these 2 rows until we have the same amount of all of our other underarm rows. They should all be the same. Then do a chain up 1 and cut. Then we will be just halfway through. Now we just have the sleeves and a few details left. Back panel is done. I now have a total of 19 rows. This width is just about 12 inches or 30 centimeters completed. I did cut. Now from here, we're going to single crochet across the tops of the front and the back panels, just so that once when we seam it, we'll start to form the neckline a little bit, but I'll talk more about that in just a few clips. But we're all going to start with our front panel first. We're just going to take our 2 front panels, place them next to each other, making sure that the underarms is along the outside, so it's laying down the way that it would basically be worn. Then, taking a look at one of our front panels, we're going to insert our hook into the top outer corner stitch and insert our yarn onto our hook. Then, pull your working yarn through and do a chain up of 1 just to secure. That doesn't actually count as a stitch. And working into the top of the shoulder rows only, we're going to be putting 2 single crochets into every side row. So finding our first side row, this is mine right here. I'm going to find that top loop and insert with 2 single crochets. So there's 1 and then there's 2. Now this is my next side row. So I'm going to find that top loop and insert with 2 again. And that's pretty much it. We're going to continue with 2 single crochets in through every side row. Our single crochets is done across one of our front panels. We're going to do the same thing into the other one, but just some really quick tips. If your single crochet row is shrinking the tops of our shoulders, good, that's what we want. And also to do the other front panel, making sure that everything is still sitting the way it would actually sit once when it's completed, we're then just going to insert our hook into the inner corner stitch of our shoulder, but then do the same single crochet row. Doing this just makes space for the neckline since the back's narrower than the front. It's really just a little assist with the shaping. Single crocheting across the top of our front panels is all done. Now we're going to do the back panel. The back panel is actually going to be the same idea but done a little bit differently. We're going to insert our hook into the top corner stitch of the back panel's width, then put 4 single crochets into every side row. So go ahead and insert yarn onto your hook. We're going to pull our working yarn through and do a chain up of 1 just to secure. Doesn't actually count as a stitch. And now we're putting 4 single crochets in through every side row. So, finding our first side row, we're going to insert with 1, same side row with 2, same side row with 3, same with our 4th. Now we're doing 4 into the tops of the back panel because whenever we do our turning chain, we chain 4 and flip, and we want to maintain that height. So make your way across with this single crochet row. Cut, then we'll let the panels kiss with a seam. So single crocheting across the top of our back panel is done. Now we're going to seam up the shoulders. So we're going to take one of our front panels, making sure that the underarms are aligned, making sure that the neckline is staying within the center of the piece. We're going to place our front on top of our back panel with the fronts of the single crochets facing in. Then insert your hook, which mine is already in through the front, and the back panel. Then go ahead and insert your yarn onto your hook. Now we're just going to single crochet seam it up, so we're going to pull through and do a chain up of 1 to secure. Then we're going to find that first stitch into the front panel. This is mine right here. Insert. First stitch into the back panel. This is mine right here. Insert. Then single crochet around everything. So we're combining both of our panels at the same time. Again, next stitch into the front, next stitch into the back, single, and continue doing this till we don't have any more stitches into the front panel left to work into. When we don't, cut and repeat on the other side. Alrighty, our shoulders are seamed. Now we're going to seam up our sides and make a cute little vest first. So we're going to make sure the work is still flipped right side out, right side up, meaning the seam that we did for the shoulders still along the outside. Then we're going to insert our hook into the bottom corner stitch of both the front and the back panel, and we're actually going to do the same single crochet seam that we did for the shoulder. So just to talk y'all through it, pull through, chain 1, and just to do the first, find that first stitch into the front panel, insert, first stitch into the back, insert, and we're going to single crochet around everything. And continue this till we don't have any more stitches left, then repeat on the other side. Everything's seamed up. We have a very cute vest. You are more than welcome to leave it like this if you want, but I will be adding some sleeves because I constantly get cold. So what we're going to do is first make sure that our work is flipped right side out, meaning all of our seams are now along the inside. Then we're going to insert our hook into the side row that we have that's nearest to our side seam within the armhole, and then we're going to single crochet all the way up and around. Grab 2 stitch markers because we're going to need that too. So we're going to start with a chain 1. I have already done that. And we're going to find that first side row. This is mine right here. I'm going to find that top loop and insert starting with 4 single crochets. 4 is a lot. With 4, I was going to say 2. 4 single crochets into the side row. So that was 1. This is 2. This is 3. And then this is 4, all into that same side row. Let's do the next one. This is my next side row right here. I'm going to find that top loop. We're going to insert with 1 single, same top loop with a second, same with a third, same with a fourth, and I am weaving in my ends as I go because I don't feel like weaving them in later. We're going to continue with 4 single crochets in through every side row. Then once we reach our stitches, 1 single crochet into every stitch. Then I'll meet you back once we reach our shoulder seam. We've made our way up with our single crochet row. Now we're just going to insert our stitch markers into our 2 middle stitches. We have just completed one of our middle stitches because it's on one side of our shoulder seam, so insert your stitch marker into that last stitch. Then we're going to do the same thing, making our way down. So 1 single crochet in through every stitch, 4 single crochet in through every side row. So just to do the next one, we're going to insert our hook into the top of that next stitch, finding our first stitch on the other side of our shoulder seam. We're going to insert with a single crochet and go ahead and insert your stitch marker into that stitch as well. Then just make your way all the way down and around, and I'll meet you back so we can close off the row together. So we've just single crocheted along the entirety of our armhole. Now we're going to close off the row. So what we're going to do is slip stitch into that chain space that we made when we got started on the row. So taking a look at the beginning of our single crochet row, we're going to find our chain space. This is mine right here. I'm going to insert my hook in through there with a slip stitch. When we pull our hook through to slip stitch, it will form an extra stitch. Just to let you know, doesn't actually count as a stitch, that's just to connect. Then what we're going to do from here is make a chain the length that we would like for our sleeve to be. Now this can be as long or as short as you'd like, that is completely up to you. I would like for mine to be just about 3/4. So I'm going to start by making a chain of 30, and that's roughly 6 inches or 15 centimeters. Now once we have our chain, we're just going to treble our way back. So since we already know how to do this, chain 4, flip our work, start our first treble into the 5th chain from our hook, put 1 treble into every chain, leaving the last one, then we'll be back to increase. So we've just trebled all the way down. We should have all left that last chain. Now, our last stitch is going to be an increase. That increase will be a linked treble, and that linked treble will also be connected into the base. Now, it sounds like a lot. I promise you it's not. We're going to do this together step by step, so come on closer. We're going to do this. So the increases are going to be an increase of 3. So basically, that's just going to be 3 treble crochets into that last stitch. But since we want them linked, because we don't want these gaps nearest to the base, because this is a set-in sleeve, so how we're going to do first our linked treble crochet. We're all going to look at our previous treble crochet. We're all going to find 2 horizontal bars. This is one right here, and this is my next one. And here's a little up close shot for you too. We're going to be working into those to link the 2 stitches together. So what we're going to do is just bring our hook down into that first horizontal bar. We're going to insert, yarn over, pull through. We're all going to have 2 loops on our hook. We're going to insert our hook into that next horizontal bar. So into there, bring our hook down a little bit further into that horizontal bar. It might be a little tricky, as you guys can see, but go ahead and insert and pull through to get 3 loops on our hook. Now we're going to insert our hook into the next stitch. So the stitch that we would normally be working into. So for this portion, it is that last chain. We're going to insert in through there and pull through to get a total of 4 loops on our hook. Then we're going to yarn over and pull through 2 until we all have just 1 loop left on our hook. So go ahead and yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, and pull through 2. Now that is our first linked treble crochet. As you guys can see, gaps are no more. So since this is going to be an increase of 3 trebles, we're going to do 1 more that is exactly like the one that we just did. So taking a look at that last stitch that we did, we're going to indicate our 2 horizontal bars. So this is my first horizontal bar. This is my second horizontal bar. Just like how we did the last one, we're going to insert our hook into that first horizontal bar, yarn over, pull through into that next horizontal bar. We're going to insert and pull through. So far, we should have 3 loops on our hook. We're then going to insert our hook into that same stitch that our last treble stitch was worked into, because it is an increase. So into that same last chain, we're going to insert, pull through for 4 loops on our hook, and just like the last one, we're going to yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. And so far, we should have an increase of 2. We do want 3, but this is what just the 2 stitches are looking like so far. Now the third one, which is going to be the last stitch in our increase, is also going to connect into the base because we don't want gaps. And if you guys are confused what I mean by gaps, then stay tuned for the next few minutes and I'll show you guys what I'm actually talking about. But how we're going to do this one is we're going to start the linking the same way that we've been doing. So into that first horizontal bar, we're going to insert, pull through into that next horizontal bar. We're going to insert, pull through, then into that same last stitch and pull through for a total of 4 loops on our hook. Now, instead of yarning over and pulling through 2, we're going to connect it into the base at the same time. So what we're going to do is inserting into that next available stitch into the base, we're going to insert, yarn over, and pull through, and now we should have a total of 5 loops on our hook. From here, we're going to yarn over and pull through 3. So there's 1, there's 2, there's 3, to get a total of 3 loops on our hook. Right after that, insert into that next stitch into the base, pull through to get a total of 1, 2, 3, 4 loops on our hook, yarn over, pull through 3 to get 2 loops on our hook. Now this one, we're going to insert our hook into that next stitch into the base. We're going to insert into there, pull through for 3 loops on our hook. Now the second time that we get 3 loops on our hook, we're going to yarn over and pull through 2 loops to get 2 loops on our hook. Then to finish off the connection into that next stitch into the base as well, pull through to get 3 loops on our hook, then yarn over and just pull through all 3. Now that is our linked treble also connected into the base. Now this is what it should be looking like. And here's our first linked treble. Here's our second linked treble. And here's our third linked treble that is also connected into the base. Now, just as some really quick tips, whenever we get started on our treble crochet row, we typically chain 4. We're chaining 4 because the trebles are a bit taller, but when we're working it into the base or out of the base, we'll do that in a second as well, we want to make sure that we're working into the 4 stitches to make sure that we're connecting it into the same height. So watch that final treble. Make sure it links in the next 4 base stitches. And now that this first linked treble is completed, we are going to work our way up to the following row as well. So like I said, our trebles are a little bit taller, so what we're going to do is slip stitch up the next 4 stitches into the base. In order to work our way up to our following even number row, we're going to slip stitch up the next 1, 2, 3, 4 stitches. So here's 1, here's 2, here's 3, there you go, and here is 4. Remember, none of those slip stitches into the base count as a stitch, and flip our work. Now we're going to work our way down. Since we're nearest to the body, we are going to have to do an increase as well, and our increase is going to start with a connection into the base. Like I said, we don't want to see the gaps. So how we're going to start our increase of 3 linked trebles is we're going to take a look at the 4 slip stitches that we did into the base. Here's 1, here's 2, 3, and 4. We're all going to start by inserting our hook into the second slip stitch from our hook, making sure we're working into those slip stitches that we just made. So here's my first, here's my second. Insert your hook into the top of that second slip stitch. So into the entire stitch, we're going to insert, yarn over, pull through to get 2 loops on our hook. We're also going to insert our hook into that third slip stitch into the base as well, so into the one right next to it. We're going to insert, pull through for 3 loops on our hook, then insert our hook into the top of that last stitch from our previous row. So, like I said, none of the slip stitches into the base actually count as a stitch. So we're going to find the top of that last stitch, insert, pull through for a total of 4 loops on our hook, then yarn over, pull through 2 to get 3 loops on our hook, yarn over, pull through 2 to get 2 loops on our hook, yarn over, pull through 2 to get 1 loop on our hook, and that is technically our first stitch for our row 2. Now we still need to do linked trebles, so what we're going to do is standard. This is my first horizontal bar, this is my second. First insert your hook into the first horizontal bar, pull through, into that next horizontal bar, pull through, then insert your hook into that same stitch that our first treble was worked into, because it is an increase, so insert, pull through, then yarn over, pull through 2 until we have 1 loop left on our hook, and there are increases of 3, so 1 more into that same stitch. So get this last stitch completed per usual. Now a quick side note, once we're working our slip stitches into the base, we want to try to use a medium tension just so the armhole doesn't become too tight. We still want that drapey flow to this cute cardi, plus it's great practice for once we get to our cuffs and bands in just a little bit. Now so far for our row 2, we should have 3 linked trebles worked into that first stitch, and here's my 1, 2, 3 stitches. The rest of the row is going to be regular treble stitches. Keep working these 2 rows till the stitch marker. Okay, so I wanted to meet you back here to show you the other sleeve. My left sleeve is done without the linked trebles, and yes, it did come out a little bit gappier than we would like. That's where the linked trebles come in and they really shine. So go ahead and finish this half of your sleeve. First half of our sleeve is done, the second half is basically a copy and paste. So just taking a look at our half a sleeve that we have, after we cut after that last row, we are going to insert our hook into the outer corner stitch of the first row that we made. Chain 4, flip our work, and working into that initial base chain that we made for our sleeve, we're going to repeat every single thing. Then once we make our way all the way up and don't have any more stitches left to work into, I'll meet everyone back so then we can seam up the top of our sleeve together. We are back. Our sleeve is completed. We made our way all the way up. Now from here, we're going to do our same single crochet seam that we did for both the shoulder and the sides. So since we're already professionals at that, what we're going to do is make sure that our work is the wrong side out, do our same single crochet seam. Once you don't have any more stitches left to work into, do a chain up of 1 and cut. Then I'll meet you back to do the cuff. We've just completed seaming up our sleeve, and I do have both of mine done, but now we're going to get started on our cuff. So the cuff is just going to be really clean, really simple back loop slip stitches. So we're first going to need to cinch the edge of our sleeve. So what we're going to do is make sure that our work is flipped right side out, right side up, meaning all of our seams are along the inside. Then we're going to insert our hook into any of the side rows that we have along the bottom of the sleeve. Then we're just going to make our way around, putting 2 single crochets in through every side row. Now this is done the same way when we worked into the top of the shoulders. Make your way around, then we'll get started on that knit-like cuff. So we just made our way around with our single crochet row. Now that we have slip stitch into that chain space, we're all going to make a chain the length that we'd like for our cuff to be. Now for my cuff, since it lays just around my elbow, I'd like for it to just be about 2 inches or 5 centimeters. So I'm going to start by making chain 12, then we're going to slip stitch all the way down. So to do the slip stitches, we want to make sure that we're using a medium to loose grip, so let's do those together. Now slip stitches can be a little tricky, so to do the first one, we're going to block off that last chain and do a chain 1. Now that chain 1 doesn't count as a stitch, that's our turning chain. Then from here into that chain that we blocked off for the second chain from our hook, making sure we're using a loosey-goosey tension, we're going to insert our hook into that second chain from our hook or into that chain that we blocked off, and I will be inserting it in through that back bump. So insert into that back bump, yarn over, and gently pull through everything on our hook. Let's do that again. Into that next chain, inserting into that back bump, insert, yarn over, and pull through everything on our hook. Remember when I mentioned keeping those slip stitches loose for the cuff? This is it. If you tug too tight, the next rows might be a little too tight to work into, so be sure to keep it relaxed and put 1 slip stitch into every chain. Our first row is completed. Now we're going to connect it into the base. So how we're going to connect our first row into the base is by finding that first stitch into the base. This is my first stitch right here. I'm going to connect in through there with a slip stitch. So insert, yarn over, pull through everything on our hook. Remember that that slip stitch into the base doesn't actually count as a stitch. That's just to connect. Then to work our way up to the following row, we are going to slip stitch up that following stitch into the base. None of those slip stitches into the base actually counts as a stitch. That's basically just to anchor and then to work our way up to the following one. And we're going to flip our work. Now back loop slip stitches all the way down. So finding that first stitch from our previous row, not working into any of those slip stitches, we're going to insert in through that back loop, then yarn over and gently pull through everything on our hook again. Let's do that again. Next stitch is back loop, yarn over, and just gently tug through both loops. Once we make our way all the way through, I know it can be a habit to actually tug on the stitch to make it a little bit tighter. Don't do that. It's going to make the following row a little bit harder. Once more, next stitch is back loop, yarn over, and just pull through. That's it. Continue with 1 back loop slip stitch into every stitch. At the end of the row, we're all going to get started on our row 3, so just chain 1, flip our work, and make our way down with 1 back loop slip into every stitch again. Then I'll meet you back at the end of our row 3 to connect. Our first 3 rows are completed. We're going to connect it into the base again. So just to get that started, we're going to slip stitch into that next stitch into the base, just like how we did our row 1. Remember that slip stitch doesn't count as a stitch. Then to work our way up to the following row, basically our turning chain, slip stitch up that following stitch into the base, flip our work, and repeat. Now from here, all we're going to do is continue to do these 2 previous rows till we don't have any more stitches left. Then I'll meet you back to do the seam, and then we get to do the part that I'm most excited about, which is the bottom band. We've just made our way all the way around with our back loop slip stitch cuff. Now we're going to seam everything up. This seam is going to be done just a little bit differently than the rest. All the other ones were single crochet seams. This is going to be an outside loop slip stitch seam to make it look nice and clean so that the seam just looks like another back loop slip stitch row. So for this one, we're going to make sure that our work is still flipped right side out, right side up. Then we're going to insert our hook into the corner stitch of both the front and the back panel. Then what we're going to do is yarn over, pull through everything on our hook, chain 1 just to secure. Then we're going to find that first stitch into the front panel and insert only into that front loop. So taking a look at the tops of our stitches, we're going to insert into the front loop or the loop that's nearest to us, and we're going to insert into there. Taking a look at that first stitch into the back panel, take a look at the top of that stitch, we're going to insert into that back loop or the loop that's furthest away from us. That is this one for me. Then once we have these 3 loops on our hook, yarn over, pull through all 3 loops. Again, next stitch into the front panel, insert only into that front loop, next stitch into the back, inserting only in through that back, yarn over, and pull through all 3. And that is it for this. We're just going to continue on with our outside loop slip stitch seam till we don't have any more stitches left to work into. When we don't, do a chain up of 1, cut, then repeat on the other side. So both of our sleeves and cuffs are completed. We are so close to being done. We're doing my favorite part right now, which is the bottom band. So what we're going to do is make sure that our work is still flipped right side out, and we're going to take a look at the bottom. So the neckline is going to be nearest to us. We're going to insert our hook into the left corner stitch of our front panel, and we're going to single crochet around. So go ahead and insert your yarn onto your hook. We're going to pull our working yarn through, chain up of 1 to secure. Then just making our way all the way around, 4 single crochets in through every side row. Our single crochet row to prep for the bottom band is complete. We did make our way over to the other corner and cut. Now from here we're going to work on the length of the bottom band. Now what we're going to do is 1, make sure that our work is still flipped right side out, right side up. Insert our hook into that chain space that we made when we started this single crochet row. Then we're all going to start by making a chain the length that we'd like for the bottom band to be. I would like for mine to be just about 3 inches or 8 centimeters, so I'm going to start by making a chain 17. Now that we have our chain, we're going to do yarn over slip stitches all the way down. So very similar to the cuff, but just with a little extra step. Now I'm excited to show this to you because this is the first time we're doing this on the channel, so I'm glad you're around for the ride. Let's get started. So we're all going to start by blocking off that last chain and do a chain 1. That chain 1 is our turning chain. Then from here, we're all going to yarn over and insert your hook into that chain that we blocked off, or the second chain from our hook. So we're going to loosely, we want to make sure that we're definitely using a loose grip for this. We're going to insert our hook in through there. From here, we're going to yarn over and pull through all 1, 2, 3 loops on our hook. So yarn over and pull through the first one. The first one will be the easiest, just to let you guys know. The second and the third may be a little bit tricky, but when we're working into the chain 1, what does help is pinching the bottom of those 2 loops and turn your hook inwards and just kind of wrestle your way through. And that is our first yarn over slip stitch. Let's do that again. Yarn over into that next chain. We're going to insert. We want to make sure that we're not tugging in any direction. Then yarn over, pull through that first loop. That's pretty easy. Then from there we want to continue to pull through that second and that third loop on our hook. Now that one actually went through really easy, but if yours is taking a little bit more effort, then that's completely normal too. Let's do that again. Yarn over into that next chain. We're going to insert. Make sure we don't tug our yarn. We're going to yarn over, pull through all 3 loops. So that's the first one. If you guys need to remember, go ahead and pull your work down to try to elongate these 2 loops on our hook and continue to pull through the 2 loops that's on your hook. There's through the first one, and that's through the second one. We're going to continue doing this, making our way down. Now the few that I just showed you here were kind of a miracle because sometimes we got to wrestle with it, especially into the chain. But just remember to keep that medium tension, tug on the loops if you guys need, and that should help. So our first yarn over slip stitch row is completed. Now we're going to connect it into the base, which is that single crochet row that we made. So what we're going to do to connect the first row is count up the next 2 stitches into the base. So here's 1, here's 2. Into that second stitch into the base, we're going to insert, yarn over, and pull through everything on our hook. Now remember that slip stitch into the base doesn't actually count as a stitch, that's just to connect. Then since we're here, we do need to work our way up to the following row as well. So we are going to slip stitch up that next stitch into the base, pull through everything, flip our work. So just to do the first one, yarn over. We're going to insert our hook into that first stitch from our previous row, making sure we're not working into any of those slip stitches into the base. We're going to insert into that back loop. Yarn over, making sure we're not pulling on our working yarn, and pull through all 3 loops. So that's the first one, that's the easiest one. Pull our work down if you need to kind of elongate those 2 loops, and pull through those 2 loops. Again, yarn over. Into that next stitch's back loop, or the loop that's furthest from us, insert your hook, yarn over, and pull through all 3 loops. So we're going to pull through the first one, adjust your fingers and pull downwards and pull through the last 2 loops. 1 back loop yarn over slip stitch into every stitch. At the end, chain 1, flip our work. Work your way back and then we'll connect it once more. First 3 rows nearly completed, just need to connect it into the base now. So just like how we did our row 1, we're going to count up the next 2 stitches. There's 1, there's 2. Slip stitch into that second stitch into the base. That doesn't actually count as a stitch, that's just to connect. Then to work our way up to the following row, slip stitch up that following stitch into the base, flip our work, and repeat. From here, we're just going to get after it. Repeat these 2 rows till we don't have any more stitches left. And a quick tip, you might be wondering why we're using a yarn over slip stitch instead of the regular one. A regular slip stitch is great, looks fantastic, feels fantastic, but it is a little bit tighter than this one. The yarn over slip stitch gives it just a little bit more flexibility. Alright, so our bottom band is completed. Everything is looking nice, it's stretchy, it's clean. Now we're going to do the same thing for the front bands. So I'm just going to show you guys how to do one of them because they are going to be done the same way on both sides. So just making sure that our work is flipped right side out, right side up. We're going to start by inserting our hook into the bottom corner stitch of our right front panel. And this part's super duper simple. It's just a single crochet row to help lay down the base. So once we do our front band, we have actual stitches to work into. So we're just going to insert our yarn onto our hook and put 1 single crochet into every stitch, making our way all the way up until we reach this corner right here. Now, as a really quick tip, we are going to reach just 1 side single crochet row. We're just going to put 1 single crochet into the side of that single crochet row. Then once we reach this top corner stitch, I'll meet you back. Now our single crochet row is completed. We're showing the front of our single crochets, which is perfect. Now we're going to do the same exact back loop yarn over slip stitch rows that we did for the bottom. So from where we're at, we're just going to make a chain for the length that we would like this front band to be. I'd like for mine to be just about 1 inch or 2 centimeters, so I'm going to make a chain 6. Then just do the same exact rows with no increases, no decreases, till we don't have any more stitches left to work into. Since we know how to do these, go ahead and do the rest on your own. Then this side is actually going to be done exactly the same way as the other side. The only difference is that instead of starting along the bottom, on the left side we're going to start along the top corner stitch because we want to show the front of the single crochet row just to keep everything nice and clean. Once we have both of these completed, I'll meet everyone back. Front band on both sides, all done. Now we're going to close it up with, I guess we can call a collar. And it's going to be done pretty much the same way as our front band. So we're going to flip our work over just so that the neckline is now faced away from us. Again, just like these easy peasy front bands, we're going to insert our hook into the top corner stitch of the left front band, and we're going to lay down a base of single crochets, making our way all the way up and over. And that's going to be the stitches that our ribbing is going to be worked into. So since y'all already know how to do this, I'll let you guys do the rest on your own. But just put 1 single crochet into every stitch. We will have just 1 single crochet to work into, 1 single crochet to work into there, and then any side rows that we may have, 4 single crochets into each of those side treble crochet rows. Then just single crochet all the way around. Once we reach this corner stitch, we'll meet back so we can get started on the height of this collar. Okie dokie, so we have just made our way up and around with our single crochet row. Now from here we're going to do the same exact back loop yarn over slip stitches that we did for the front band and for the bottom band. So from here, just make a chain the height that we like for the collar to be. That is completely up to you, but I'd like for mine to still be just about 1 inch or 2 centimeters. So I'm just going to start by making the same chain that we made for the front band, which was 6 for me. Then just make your way all the way up and around with those stitches. I'm not going to say that cluster of words anymore because it keeps tripping me up. Just make your way all the way around with the same stitches that we did for the front band. When we don't have any more stitches left to work into, do a chain up of 1 and cut. Alright, collar all completed. Now she is stitched, seamed. Now it's time for buttons. But the buttons are optional, so if you guys want to leave it like this, go ahead and weave in all your ends and scurry off. But for those of us that do want buttons, we're going to make sure that our work is flipped right side out, right side up. Then taking a look at our piece, making sure that the collar is away from us, we're going to be inserting our stitch markers into the right front band that we have, and that's going to be where our buttons are going to sit. So for those of you that want my numbers, I went ahead and inserted my stitch marker, and my stitch markers is just a placeholder for where my buttons are going to be. I went ahead and inserted my stitch marker into the first ribbed row that I had into the collar. Then working our way down our front band, I counted down 3 ribbed rows. So here's my first ribbed row, 1, 2, 3, inserted my stitch marker. Then into the next, counting from the next, here's 1, 2, 3, into the next with my next stitch marker, and again, 1, 2, 3, into that next. So roughly in between each of my stitch markers, I have about 2 1/4. Now from here, I'm going to use 20mm buttons, and I'm just going to sew them into place. Now you guys can use whatever technique you guys want to sew them into place. First button down, now we're going to do the loop closure. So wherever we insert our stitch markers into the right side, we're going to insert our stitch markers into the same rows but on the left side and underneath, because the loops are going to come from underneath the border. So I went ahead and already inserted my stitch markers into there. Now since I have this button done, we're going to do this one together. Now the loop that we're about to do is going to be completely up to you and the width that you need and also the button size that you're doing. But just as a general tip, we're going to insert our hook into that same row that our button's in, but on the other side. Then we're just going to make our chain. I roughly measured mine out. I needed about 2.5 inches, so chain 15 for me. Now once we have our chain, just to double check, it can wrap around my button and then reattach where it was connected. So I'm going to slip stitch it into that same stitch that our chain is worked out of, yarn over, pull through everything, and cut. Now this is one of my button and loop closures completed. Now once we have this, we're just going to repeat this for as many stitch markers as we have. Once we have all of them completed, I'll meet everyone back. We are all done. I've just completed the loops and each of my buttons, and now we're just going to weave in all of our ends. And there you have it, y'all. Hope you enjoyed the tutorial. Enter this week's pattern giveaway by telling us the first movie that ever made you cry. Mine was probably like Lilo and Stitch or something, but the movie that really messed me up as a child was Click. Details for the giveaway down below. Join us on Instagram, Pinterest, or X. Those links are down below, and don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Catch you on the next one. Bye!